Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by Neil to look over the best captaincy options for game week 13. Neil, welcome. How are you?
I'm right, Joe. Yeah, enjoying the international break from a work perspective because it means less articles to write and more time off. But yeah, itching to get back into it now.
Yes, definitely. I'm starting with, as the days are approaching towards the next deadline, I'm starting to think more and more about it. And a nice segue in, one of the key things to think about is the captaincy. And this week is not, I don't think it's as cut dry. It could be a good week for a differential. So dullards like me have been blessed this season, I think, with the ability to be able to switch the captaincy between Aguero and Salah. Due to some really nice home rotation against easy opposition. It's been fantastic, really, and you can pretty much get a captaincy return every week by using that method. Maybe not, a huge one, but definitely there. So, but the fixture list in November, December is not as kind. So this week is no exception, really. Both of those have away matches and potentially tricky away matches or potentially easy. That's it. They're hard to call. So, I mean, let's start off with looking at Salah. So, yeah, as we can see there, Liverpool are away to Watford. What are the pros and cons, do you think, of handing Salah the armband this week?
Yeah, I'm really on my corner. This is the first time I've done this video, but it's probably the hardest one of the season. So, I wrote an article on Scout over the weekend, a members piece, about his underlying stats compared to last season when he scored 303 points, I think it was. And so I won't spoil it for the paying members, but it's basically, there's not much in it. There's discrepancies here and there, little anomalies about sort of penalty back touches and shots in the box, but there's not much in it either way. He's largely matching his stats from last season.
Okay.
Any sort of downward trends are minimal at best, to the point of being insignificant. But one sort of standout stat was his goal conversion rate. Now that was around where Hazard and Sterling's are this season, so around about early 20%, and it's down. It's almost halved to sort of 12.5%.
Okay.
So he's not quite the clinical player he was last season, but he's still head and shoulders above anyone in his position in terms of underlying stats. Certainly for sort of shots in the box, big chances. I think Sterling's trumping him slightly on penalty box touches, but other than that, he's still the standout candidate from a midfield perspective. He's just not as clinical as he was last season. Now, the other thing to come out of that piece was that I looked at his form against the top 10 sides this season, so the big six, and then whoever's in 7th to 10th at the moment. And he's played 5 games against the top half of the table, and he hasn't recorded one attack and return. So he hasn't got a goal, he hasn't got an assist. He's averaging 2.2 points per match. In the bottom half of the table, he's played 7 games, scored 6 times, 4 assists, averaging 9.1 points per match. Now, the reason I say all this is that Liverpool's next 9 fixtures, I think 6 of them are against teams who are currently in the top half of the table, starting with Watford this Saturday. Now, Watford aren't an elite team. They're not one of the big 6, but they've posted some decent displays in this season, particularly at home. They beat Spurs at home. They sort of took Man United all the way. They should have got something from Arsenal away as well. So it is quite a tricky fixture, that. And it just looking at the FPL fixture list, Salah's name isn't one it would leap out as a standout candidate straight away.
I mean that's what I mean. I think you're right with Watford there. I mean, I describe them really as comfortably mid-table, and I don't think that's either over-exaggerating or being unkind to them. They're completely safe. They're not going to win the Premier League, but they're doing well, and they can on their day beat anyone, and on their day they can get beaten by anyone. That's what makes it slightly tricky to call. I was having a look at away shots. And Salah's up there with 24 shots away from home. Now the only one that can better him for that is Harry Kane. But Harry Kane's played 8 away games,
Yeah.
and Salah's played 6. So you can see he's actually per game doing much better. In terms of minutes per shot in the box as well, Salah's right up there with all the usual suspects you would think. So Salah's putting in a shot in the box away from home every 33 minutes as well. So Hazard's every 35 minutes, Kane every 32 minutes. And Aguero is higher with every 30 minutes. So he's in that sort of company, which is where you would expect him. On paper, he could be a good option. Depends on where you think of Watford. Are they a top half side or bottom side?
Yeah.
They're probably a bit of both, really. But it is a tough one to call. My captaincy is currently on Salah, I'm going to say.
Is it? Oh.
But it may change. It may change because the next player we're going to look at is Aguero. Now, Aguero is away to West Ham. Once again, West Ham are doing quite well. They can beat anyone on their day. They can lose to anyone on their day. But I'm going to put a picture up on the screen for Aguero here. This is home matches versus away matches. It's from our members area. We do a kind of a heat map thing. It also analyses various key analytics, key statistics, so bonus potential, goal potential, assist potential, those kinds of things. Basically, it shows there, you can see that Aguero is absolutely much better at home. He's doing really well at home, not so well away. What this isn't because he's obviously played more home games than away games. This is an average per game, per match. So this evens out. This is per appearance. It's doing this. So that means that's kind of evened out there as well. And he's away from home as well. Yes, there's been some tough fixtures. So City have played Arsenal, Liverpool and Spurs away from home. They are tough. Wolves, depending on how you think of Wolves, that's a tough one. And Cardiff, well, Man City absolutely trounced Cardiff 5-0. But Aguero only got that one goal. Lots and lots of shots, but just the one goal. So whilst, yes, the fixtures have been tough, there's been, I would say, Cardiff pretty easy. And Wolves, well, they should be getting quite handsomely beaten by City away. And Aguero should be scoring a lot, but that hasn't happened. So what's your take on Aguero? Primarily, can he do it away? Can you trust him with the armband away from home?
I mean, I'm stopping short of doing it myself, but I wouldn't quite believe the sort of home versus away hype just yet. I think you mentioned that yourself about the calibre of the opposition away from home. So Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Wolves, yes, City should be beating them probably, but if you look at their sort of defensive underlying statistics, they're one of the best in the league for like conceding fewest big chances, few shots in the box and things like that. Now, I've isolated that Cardiff game that Aguero played, and he had 6 shots in the box, 3 of them on target, 11 penalty box touches. This was all within 61 minutes, so this was one of the games in which he was hauled off on the hour. Now, yes, there's the away form hanging over his head, but we haven't really had a good run of games to analyse Aguero's form against sides outside of the big 6 and Wolves. So there's not really a big enough data selection to go on, really, I think, at this point.
No, I think you're right. I look at a player like Aguero and I don't think, oh my God, he's playing away. No matter who it is, I'm not going to captain him. At the moment, I think Salah has the edge, but I'm starting to persuade myself, and perhaps, subconsciously you are persuading me as well, just with that element of doubt there. One of the things I looked at was Watford and West Ham. So if we're looking at Salah v Aguero, and looking at all home matches, and luckily they both played exactly the same number of home matches, and West Ham come out much worse than Watford as in home form. They've conceded 70 shots at home, and Watford 58. They've conceded 28 shots outside of the box, Watford 16, and big chances conceded. Well, they've conceded 13 there, and Watford have conceded 10 at home. In terms of opposition, I think West Ham look more there for the taking than Watford. But
that's true. Yeah. Sorry, Joe.
No, I was going to say, but it's that home form. We don't know. It's an unknown quantity. We need more data. So this could be something for the Maverick stats fans and think, well, if we think Aguero is going to score more against weaker sides away, hand him the armband. Your armband currently is not on Salah or Aguero, or is it on one of them?
It's not actually. It's on Richarlison, who we'll talk about in a second. Okay. Now that whether I've got the guts to go through with that closer to the deadline, I'm not sure. It was just pure. I was setting my team up as soon as the Gameweek 12 deadline had passed. that's the fixture that stood out immediately at home to Cardiff. Put it on him. I'll probably convince myself otherwise between now and Saturday.
Okay.
Just going back to that West Ham data analysis from the defensive point of view. Now they've had, much like Man City, have had tough away fixtures. They've had some tough home fixtures, which may explain why they've got so many shots. So they've had Chelsea at home, they've had Man United at home, Spurs at home, Wolves and Bournemouth as well. They're all sort of teams who performed quite well this season.
But that, I did look at that. I did think that, and then I thought, well, hang on a minute, they didn't concede any to Chelsea at home. So you would think they ought to. So that proves, I'm starting to think the West Ham actually turn it up a bit against the bigger teams. And yes,
they've been accused of this in the past, haven't they? Yeah,
they're conceding those shots and those chances, but they're dealing with them better. Now lots of these matches they really and it was the Manchester United game as well. I mean they were comfortable winners. I mean, depending, a Manchester United fan would say, "Ooh, a bit close," but to the neutral, West Ham were did really well in that match. So yeah, but you pointed out an interesting segue really to who else would you captain, and you're immediately on Richarlison. So while you've been talking there, I just put up a picture on the screen. Top midfielders in the game, and right up amongst them you've got Richarlison there and you've got Sigurdsson there, so they're knocking around with the likes of David Silva, Martial, Salah, Sterling, Hazard, and Pereira of Watford as well. But so they're messing with the big boys there in terms of scoring points there. So Richarlison and Sigurdsson, potentially good options if Sigurdsson's fit against Cardiff. Tell me more about why Richarlison, not just the fixtures, presumably it's about Richarlison as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've been an owner since the start of the season, and the fact that he's playing up front now, which wasn't necessarily seen as a good thing. David did some analysis after his first 2 games up front, didn't paint him in a good light, but he's definitely sort of grown into that role, I think, over the past couple of weeks, culminating in his huge return against Brighton. Now, if you're an owner in either, or if you've got both, or if you're considering buying one, then obviously, as you mentioned there, Sigurdsson's got the yellow flag hanging over him. We don't know how serious that is. This is where we cross over into the team news video. We'll update that later in the week. Now, Sigurdsson's actually probably statistically the better player. I mean, he's actually averaging a shot more often than Richarlison this season, every 34.6 minutes compared to 36.5. Sigurdsson's top 5 for key passes amongst midfielders. So if he was fit, he'd be a candidate to consider as well. But his injury just sounds fairly enough to make him a doubt for the weekend. I wouldn't say serious yet. So yeah, by default, Richarlison's your go-to Everton option, because he came off against Chelsea with, I think, a groin strain, I think it was. But he returned for Brazil on Friday against Uruguay. He came off the bench, so he's fit. And he'll presumably be back up front again. I mean, the alternative is, if Sigurdsson does miss out, you could have Richarlison moving to either the number 10 role or onto the left, with Bernard coming in the hole.
And Tosin perhaps up front instead.
But wherever he plays, he's a threat. I mean, most people sort of consider him a bigger threat when he's not playing as the number 9, when he's out wide on the left and he's sort of driving at defenders. And the good thing about Cardiff is, if you ever listen to Warnock's press conferences, he's quite philosophical these days. I think he's around about the 70-year-old mark, and he says he just wants to go out and watch his team attack and just have a go, and he's not one of those who's likely to sit back and defend. I mean, you've seen that this season with that game against Manchester City. They've been put to the sword a couple of times against big 6 teams. So my armband is on him at the moment. I'll probably do more analysis between now and Friday, but especially when we do the Captain Sensible article later in the week. But I think, he's the standout player if you're looking at fixtures.
Now, I don't own Richarlison, and sadly I agree with you. I think he is in terms of fixture and home form. So he's had 3 goals at home as well, and 9 shots in the box as well. So he's okay. Just below Sigurdsson actually with 11. So he's doing, that's just across 4 starts at home. I may even take a hit to get him in, but partly because it's playing the game, and there's going to be a lot of people like you not only owning him but captaining him, and he's owned by more than a quarter of managers. So if he gets a haul and you don't even own him, is going to be a problem. And it is, I think it is, a home fixture against a newly promoted side. On paper, that does sound good, and he does have the form, and he has been adapting. We did question him up front, but he has been adapting to that role, and we know he can be effective on the wings, so it doesn't even matter where he is as well. So yeah, I think that's a good call. Let's go back to the fixtures and just find out, are there any other strong options you think for those looking away from the Salah Aguero duo?
Yeah, there probably are. A lot of them are injury doubts themselves. I think this weekend, it's just international break has just been one injury after another. Whether they're genuine or not, we don't know. If we find out later in the week. So, for example, Anthony Martial would be up there in terms of fixtures. I mean, they've got Crystal Palace at home. They're not quite as porous as Cardiff are. But I mean, 6 goals in 5 matches, 1 assist as well. But he's another with a yellow flag on him. He's got a thigh injury, I think. So we couldn't see at this stage whether he's going to be fit. You can see the same about Arsenal's duo, Lacazette and Aubameyang. Lacazette pulled out of the France squad hours after being called up, and Aubameyang's been involved in a little spat with the Gabonese FA, I think, regarding his unavailability. I think he's citing a back problem. So there's a lot of question marks hanging over those sort of B-listers at the moment.
I was just thinking as well, looking at Martial's quite an interesting one. There's been some chat on Twitter this morning around some of the fantasy football community about what is the difference between in form and overperforming. And Martial is the prime example of that. I mean, I was speculating it's basically whether you own him or not. If you don't, he's overperforming. If you do, he's in form. Yeah. But yeah, over the last 4 game weeks, 12 shots and 5 goals. Okay. Yeah. You gotta. I mean, that's the fact there, and you just got to take that to however you think it. If you think he's going to keep continuing that, and we get something positive from the press conference that he's fit and ready to go, he's a really, really strong option. But if you think he's overperforming, he's not. I could be possibly, if Doherty is better, is feeling better. I think it could be time, perhaps one of those weeks, because of the concerns over Salah and Aguero and their fixture, to captain a Wolves defender. And if Doherty's fit, you've got the potential for attacking returns, but also you've got that really great fixture against Huddersfield, at home to Huddersfield, and Huddersfield are very poor. Is it time to captain a Wolves defender, perhaps?
I think it could be, yeah. I think they've got options to win points on 2 fronts. So defensively, they're up against Huddersfield, who are the worst team in the division in terms of attacking. Like, they've scored fewer goals than anybody else. But obviously, we're not with Doherty just because of his clean sheets. We're with him because of his attacking returns and his promise. I mean, he's been really unlucky the past few weeks. Was it the Brighton game especially, where he had 6 shots on goal? Could easily have come away with a goal from that. He had a part in Jimenez's offside goal against Spurs, and he was 5 minutes away from a clean sheet against Arsenal last weekend. He's in my team, and he's certainly up there with an option. I think particularly as you hope he's going to be okay. It was just a facial injury that kept him out of the Ireland squad. Now, if there's any sort of doubts about concussion, and he's definitely served his protocol by now. I don't think it was concussion. I think it might just be bruising, but we'll wait to hear on that. Now, Johnny on the opposite flank, I'm not sure if you've seen this, he injured his knee last night playing for Spain. So it looks like he's going to be out this weekend, but hopefully Doherty's going to be fit and firing, and up against a Huddersfield side who've battled gamely in recent weeks. They've certainly showed defensive improvements, but they're going to be without Zanka, who's suspended, and Chris Löwe, I think his name is, the sort of German wing-back, who are 2 sort of important players for them defensively. So you could even throw Jimenez into the mix as well, perhaps, as a captaincy candidate. Okay,
well, I think you're right to point out Jimenez as well. I think if you're going to take a risk with some of these kind of players that we don't usually mention in the captain poll video, I think this is the week to do it, perhaps. Yeah. And also the week back from an international break, anything can happen. You never quite sure what the team sheets are going to be and what the form's going to be for some of these players that are coming back off international duty. But for now, Neale, thanks so much for that. It's been illuminating, especially some of that Salah information. It's been great. But good luck with the game week, and see you next time.
No bother. Speak soon, Joe.